The software. So a software is simply a name given to programs or sets of programs that tell the computer what to do. So a software is a set of instructions. So there are two main types of software. We have what we call the operating system, which is an intermediary between the hardware and the software. And we also have the application software, which is simply any program file that is designed to help the user perform the tasks. Now, there are different types of operating systems that you need to know. Like I said, an operating system is simply a bridge between the applications and the hardware. Applications that we have, examples include word processing software, spreadsheets or accounting packages like Excel. The hardware includes the physical part of the computer that we can touch. Now, an operating system performs the following tasks. Number one, it is an operating system that initiates the setup of the computer. Once you boot it through the BIOS, operating system is what kickstarts the computer. Operating system is also used to check the hardware, including the peripherals, whether they are functioning properly. The operating system calls up program files into memory. It is used for opening and closing files. An operating system also maintains directories. An operating system controls the input and output devices. An operating system interprets and executes computer commands. That is the job and task of an operating system. Operating system also controls the security system of the computer using passwords. An operating system also handles interruptions that may come through abnormalities or machine failure. An operating system also manages multiple tasks. We call that multitasking. Microsoft Windows is one example of an operating system. We also have Linux, Apple. Those are operating systems. Now, the Microsoft Windows includes the following features. There's a desktop. A desktop is simply the area which performs where all programs may be accessed. So an example of a desktop is what I showed you in the previous session, where we have the icons, we have the folders just on the desktop. We also have what is called a taskbar. A taskbar has a start button where you launch all applications. We have a recycle bin where after you delete any file, it goes into the recycle bin. But if you control delete, it goes right in the recycle, out of the recycle bin. We also have other aspects which we have, like the networking software. This is a software that enables you to connect your laptop to the internet. We also have what we call Microsoft Internet Explorer, which is a browser where we will include our URL. When you want to browse Google, we call that an explorer. It's a browser. So the following are the features of Windows. Number one, in terms of user-friendliness, it has a user-friendly navigation, such as double-clicking, right-clicking to access the applications that we have. So Windows can also be reliable. We have what we call a reliability test, which can test whether the files and the hard disk is working. It has another feature which we call web integration. Here, a variety of features are designed to enhance the internet access. It has also features of multimedia where you're able to access the videos, the MP3 files, and we also have what we call the GUI, which is a graphical user interface. The graphical user interface is what necessitates usage of a laptop or a computer between you and the software. Now, I said there are different types of what? Operating systems. Microsoft, Linux, all these are operating systems that you need to understand. So an examiner will ask you to identify some of the elements of a computer. So this has a number of sections that you need to identify. Okay. So what is an icon? An icon is simply an image or an object that is used to represent a function. A mouse is simply a pointer or a cursor that moves around, hovers around the screen. We have a pull-down menu, which is usually at the far end at the corner. A pull-down menu appears at every aspect of, so this is a pull-down menu. When you click, there are functions that come through. So these are all pull-down menus. So I talked about other operating systems. Said we have Linux, we have Mac OS, which we call Macintosh, Apple Macintosh, where all Apple computers operate, and the operating system that doesn't have viruses. This is the Mac OS. We have the Unix operating system, we have the Linux operating system, and we have the famous Android operating system, which is powered by Google, the one we usually use on our phones. So we also talked about application software. Application software has programs that carry out tasks for the user as opposed to programs. So application packages that we may have specific responsibilities. For instance, we have Word, we have Excel, we have PowerPoint, we have Access, we have email organization, or which we call Outlook. So these ones are called application or integrated software. So now we go to what we call database. So most information systems use what we call a database to store information. Now, a database is defined as a file of data or files that interrelate data. So the role of databases is basically communication. So all communications between softwares and the database are controlled by a special software which we call the DBMS, which is the database management system. So this DBMS is defined as a set of programs that manages a database. So here is how the database is managed. So we have a database which is under the DBMS. It has the following functions. It performs accounting work, invoicing work, inventory control, production control, order processing. So you need to understand what the DBMS does. All right. So DBMS has a number of advantages and disadvantages. The advantages that you avoid duplication when you have a database system. There's less processing time, updating is much quicker, and there's data consistency. It also improves access to the data, and also data may be used by different users from different applications. Let's go to networking. Are there any questions so far with what has been discussed?
No.
Okay. So networking. It's a very key topic. Okay, so there are what we call networks. We've heard of social media, where we get to use Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, where individuals get to share information. So the success of these social networks thrives on us understanding networks. So there are different types of social networks that include the following: user profiles, which hold personal information; the media, which holds photos and videos; messaging services; application or widgets; All these are part of what we call personal websites. We also have, besides the personal networks, other networks that are also used to communicate. So these networks include different types of networks. Okay, let's quickly go to my notes. Okay, so we go to the networks that we are looking at. So on the networks, network is simply a collection of computers and devices that are connected together. These ones are usually wireless, and they use communication devices like the local area network and the wide area network. Now, computers are connected together using a network into two categories, by what we call servers and client stations. A client or a workstation is usually a normal computer that people sit on at their workplace, browse through the web using a URL, which is called the Uniform Resource Locator, or a web page. So computers are connected together to create a network. Now, these networks are categorized in groups. So we have what we call servers, which are special powerful computers that provide services to a client on a network. So these services might include providing a central or a common file storage where people can access information from a central place. Servers also will share hardware like the printers, where each individual can print from the remote area. Other services that these include controlling who can and who can't access this network. So servers are built on a very reliable space, which means that they're very expensive than these normal computers that we use. So we have different types of networks, which we have what we call the LAN, the local area network. This can be created even at the office, which connects small computers relatively in close proximity within a particular area or building. So the LAN uses what we call intranet. So an intranet is simply private internetwork, which usually uses or is created by a private organization. So it is intended basically for members of staff. We also have what we call a MAN, which is a metropolitan area network. It's a communication infrastructure that has been developed, which could be in a city where only cities can access that internet. We also have what we call WAN, which is wide area network, which connects one or two or three local area networks over a large geographic area. So WANs will cross over provinces or states in a country. So WANs fall under extranets. An extranet can be viewed as a part of a company's intranet where it has extended users outside the company, like suppliers, vendors, and partners. Then finally, we go to the internet, which is an international wide collection of internets. Millions of businesses and government agencies will access information here. So the internet uses what we call an ISP, which is an internet service provider. Whenever you ask what ISP are you using? So internet also has what we call an OSP, which is an online service provider, and a WISP, which is a wireless internet service provider. So what are the users of internet? For online communication, you can share software on the internet, you can exchange views and topics on the internet, you can post information of general interest, you can promote a product on the internet, you can give feedback about a product, you can promote customer support service and online journals and magazines. So internet can also be on the World Wide Web, which contains billions of documents, www, you heard. So when you look at this here, so the HTTP is called the protocol. Then www.zika.government, this is what we call the domain name. Then we have a path, which gives you a route. For instance, this is called a path. Then the last part, the last name is called the web name, .htm. So we have the protocol, we have the domain name, we have the path, and we have the web name. Remember, we had such a question here to identifying which one is the domain name or which one is the protocol. All right. So on the computer, this is called the address bar, where the address is actually written. The whole lot of this is called the address. They need to take note of these important parameters. So terminologies under the internet, we have a web page, we have a website, we have a web browser, we have a web address, we have a hypertext transfer protocol, and surfing. So what is a web page? A web page is simply an electronic web document. What is a website? It's a collection of interrelated web pages. What is www, which is World Wide Web? It's a collection of electronic documents. What is a search engine? A search engine is simply a computer program that is used to find information in the World Wide Web. It displays the results. A search engine can be Google, it's type of search engine, Google Scholar, type of search engine. All right. So what is a web browser? A web browser uses search engine to retrieve, to view the information. So we have examples of web search engines like Google, Yahoo, Bing, Baidu. All these are types of what search engines. I'm sure you've seen them on the internet. So what is a web address? It's simply a location online. When you're searching for something online, the whole text there is called a location online. Then we have what we call an HTTP, which stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It is an application protocol which is used for distributed collaborative hypermedia systems. What we call surfing, internet surfing. So when you're going from one page to another on the internet, that is called surfing. So internet browsing means reading something you desire on the targeted specific internet page. So what activities do we do on the internet? We research, we get education, we do business. When you're online, you also do e-commerce. E-commerce can be business to consumer, which is we call B2C. We have consumer to consumer, which is C2C. We have business to business, which is to B2B. So this is what we call searching on the web. You're trying to look for documents, you're searching for information. So when you're searching on the internet information on the web, we have to look at the following terminologies. We have what we call the in title, the in URL, the all these terminologies and the extensions. So the advantages of an internet is that you're able to search information that you want at your own doorstep. The disadvantages that there's theft of personal information through the internet, there's spamming, there's malicious code, there's social isolation. People may demonize you on the internet. There's cyberbullying, etc. Now, computer viruses are simply malicious programs that replicate itself. We have what we call a worm. A worm is simply a malicious program that replicates itself, but does not attach itself to an existing program. We have what we call a Trojan. A Trojan is a non-replicating malicious program that only activates when it's triggered. We have a rootkit, which is a stealthy malicious program. So these terms you need to understand. What is a virus? It's a malicious program that replicates itself. What is a worm? It's a malicious program that replicates itself, but right like a virus, but it doesn't attach to an existing program. A Trojan horn does not replicate itself, but activates when it's triggered. We also have an antivirus, which is simply a program that sets to protect against viruses and also identifies and removes any of them. So it's corrective in nature. So what are some of the tips for preventing viruses? Number one, you should never start a computer with a removable disk before you disinfect it. Number two, never open an email unless you're expecting it or it's from a trusted source. Number three, you need to set a macro security program by enabling an antivirus on your computer. So you need to install antivirus on a computer and update it regularly. Number five, you need to scan all downloaded documents for viruses. Number six, if you have an antivirus program, an email attachment is infected, you need to delete it or quarantine it immediately. If you receive something that you know is suspicious, quarantine it so that the virus should what? Sanitize it. And before using any removable disk like a flash, you need to follow the procedure. You need to shrink the software, isolate it, and disinfect it. You also need to install personal firewalls. These ones will always protect your programs from being eaten up. Also, you need to stay informed about new virus alerts and hoaxes. So these are some of the tips you need to understand in protecting yourself from unnecessary viruses. So let's go to some of the questions now. A Unless there are any questions before I proceed. So we'll go through some exam questions. Let's look at the 2019 paper. So now we go into the 10 multiple choice questions. Question number one is an advantage of databases. Number one, data is held once and not duplicated in different files. Number two, it allows access to a wide range of data management purposes. Number three, there is improved data consistency. Number four, there is improved encryption of items. So which one is not an advantage? Of database? D. So there is improved encryption of data items. Encryption is not a database issue, it's a security concern. So it's not necessarily to do with database. So the primary advantages are listed A, B, and C. These ones relate to database management, as I was reading earlier on. Which menu tab in Excel would you use for error checking? Which one is used for error checking? It's a review. So in Microsoft Excel, review tab includes tools for error checking, also features like spell, audit. So review, C is the answer. Are you following?
Yes.
So here, D, here is C. So controls can be classified in three types: preventive, detective, corrective. So the reception of a message from MTN Zambia about data bundle, which is about to finish as you stream a video on YouTube, is an example of the result of which control? Is it preventive, detective, corrective, or all the above three?
Detective.
Okay. Yes, detective. So the message about Banda is detective. So it can detect because it identifies an issue that has already occurred. Correct. Detective. But which device below can be used as both an input and output device? Touchscreen, joystick, CRT, LCD.
Touch screen.
Yes, a touchscreen can accept input data by tapping or wiping through. It can also provide output by displaying the information that you're looking for. So it's a touchscreen, correct? 1.5, which one of the following is not an example of different approaches that can be used by data mining software? Which one of the following is an example can be used by data mining software? So the answer is B, authentication. So data mining basically involves analyzing huge data sets. It is used to discover patterns, relationships. So authentication is not a data management system, it's a security issue, which prevents people from, and it's an identity theft issue in short. So which one is not? Authentication.
If you don't mind explaining the rest of the remaining
Okay.
options.
So, what is identification? What is summarization? What is each of these ones? So that's a good one. So you need to understand each of them for you to differentiate which one is and is not applicable. So let's start with the first one, which is identification. So identification basically is a process of verifying your identity as a user. What's identity? It involves you putting a unique label, like a username, ID, when you're entering the Zika to differentiate you from another person. That is a data management system. So once you're identified, confirms that you're in the database. Okay, then that is identification. Authentication is also a process of confirming entity of a particular person, whether you are genuine. So it involves validating credentials like a password and a PIN. So yeah, auto authenticate is simply a security concern that identifies the user being authentic. Summarization is simply a process which involves representing data in a very concise manner, in a summarized way, but retaining the essential information. So here, it's a data mining tool which is employed to provide just a brief overview in a condensed manner of the large. So to condense is simply to summarize is simply to compress. It helps extract just the key insights without going in detail. Then finally, we have what we call creation of dependencies. So this is another data mining or management where you create dependencies by establishing relationships or connections between the data elements. For instance, you want to see how one key is related to another. Okay. So is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So we can now proceed. So which one did we rule out? All these are data mining. Which one did we rule out? Authentication, right?
Yes.
Yes. Which does abbreviation CC stand for? CC stands for what?
Carbon copy.
Yes, CC stands for carbon copy. So when you use CC,
What about all this could be right?
pardon?